Hi, my name is Nick Patrick, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Radar. Radar is a next-generation geolocation solution for the gaming industry. And in this video, I'm excited to tell you a bit about Radar, tell you a bit about what makes Radar different from some other geolocation vendors in the gaming space, and also give a brief product demo. Radar has been around for almost a decade as a geofencing platform. Last year, we launched our Maps platform and our geolocation compliance solution, making us the only all-in-one geolocation platform. And we power geolocation use cases for hundreds of enterprises across a number of different industries, including companies like Panera Bread, Dick's Sporting Goods, Zillow, T-Mobile. But gaming is actually our fastest growing vertical, and today we have over 30 enterprise gaming customers spanning sportsbook, iGaming, iLottery, sweepstakes, horse racing, and much more. This is a sample of customers and partners, but we're excited to announce many more very soon. Forward-thinking operators and vendors choose Radar for a number of reasons. The first is cost. So Radar is typically between 50 to 90% less expensive than alternative geolocation solutions. We also price differently. So instead of charging per location check, we price based on monthly tracked users and devices, which means you can ping as often as you need for a given player or a given device in a given calendar month at no additional cost. Part of this is because we think this is a fairer price point for geolocation services. Part of this is because we've spent the last decade optimizing our infrastructure, which means we can sustainably operate our services at a much lower price point. Which leads me to my second reason, which is scale. Radar recently announced that we're processing over 1 billion API calls per day. So we bring an enterprise readiness to the gaming space that some other new entrants don't. And we believe that we're doing more scale than existing geolocation solutions in the gaming space as well. The third is ease of integration. We think of ourselves as a developer tool like a Stripe or a Twilio at our core. We're the only geolocation solution in the gaming space that has open source SDKs, open developer docs, self-serve signup. It's just a few lines of code to integrate, and it's also quite easy to migrate from an existing solution. Another reason is performance. We've spent the last decade squeezing every last drop of performance out of location services, so unparalleled accuracy, low latency, which means better player experience. Another reason is flexibility. So we can power a number of different geolocation use cases beyond geolocation compliance, things like location-based messaging or location-based on-premise experiences, in addition to things like address autocomplete. And finally, support. We think of ourselves as a partner, not a vendor. We really pride ourselves on customer support. We're a team that we think you'll love working with, and we'd love to support your geolocation needs. Our geolocation compliance solution is an extension of our geofencing platform. So the focus today will be on country and state detection as well as location spoofing detection. But beyond that, we also have very powerful geofencing capabilities. You can manage thousands or hundreds of thousands of geofences in Radar. We also have out-of-the-box geofences for points of interest like casinos or stadiums or airports. And we support things like Bluetooth beacon detection for indoor location as well. Our geolocation compliance solution can detect dozens of forms of location spoofing, including GPS spoofing, proxy and VPN usage, device tampering, remote desktop, etc., helping you meet geolocation requirements in any jurisdiction. We can detect a player's current jurisdiction as well as distance to border, things like exclusion zones, and more. And again, we support custom geofences, beacons, and Wi-Fi detection to detect location indoors. We have a very powerful back office dashboard, which I'll show you in a second. We also have user and device risk scoring and alerting to identify high-risk users, devices, and transactions. And we support these capabilities across iOS, Android, desktop, as well as a no-download web solution. And these solutions have been audited by GLI. So with that, let's jump into a product demo. So your dashboard is a one-stop shop that lets you see all geolocation checks that are being performed in your project, look up specific checks or players or devices, analyze the data, perform investigations, configure your geolocation settings, and so on and so forth. On this page, you can see all geolocation checks that are being performed in your project. You can see at a glance the player for which that check was performed, a timestamp, current jurisdiction, did we pass or fail the geolocation spoofing checks. And you can look up specific date ranges, you can look up specific players or devices or IP addresses or geographic areas. You can see a live map of all geolocation checks that are being performed. And you can also analyze the data and build charts and custom dashboards. When you drill into a geolocation check, you can see more information, including which checks passed and failed, more information about the device, more information about the location. You can visualize it on a map. You can visualize it relative to the jurisdictional polygon. You can take a look at the satellite information, and you can see we can get quite accurate here. In addition to seeing information about the device geolocation, you can also see more information about the IP address and the IP geolocation, information about the connection type. For checks that failed, you can see detailed failure reasons, whether those were jurisdiction checks that failed or geolocation spoofing checks that failed. In addition to pivoting on geolocation checks, you can also pivot on players or devices. You can look up specific players or devices, see risk scores for players or devices. On the user detail page, you can visualize a specific user or device's geolocation history, as well as block them or bypass checks for that user for testing. Jurisdictional polygons are available out of the box at both the country and state level. We've also loaded in out-of-the-box exclusion zones for specific jurisdictions. In addition to out-of-the-box jurisdictional polygons, you can also easily create custom geofences. Those can be circles or polygons, and they can represent anything you want. Those could be custom exclusion zones. Those could be polygon geofences for casinos. Those could be circular geofences around stadiums for marketing campaigns. And Radar also has millions of other types of out-of-the-box geofences, including various points of interest like stadiums. This is an NFL stadium, as well as airports, casinos, malls, retailers, and other types of venues, depending on your use case. As part of our Maps platform, we also have a standalone IP geolocation API, as well as an address autocomplete and address validation API for address completion flows, maybe in a sign-up or KYC flow. And base maps as well, if you wanted to display nearby venues on a map. It's very easy to send your data anywhere you want. So in addition to acting on geolocation checks on the client, you can also send geolocation data server to server to webhooks or a number of different downstream server to server integrations. It's very easy to configure your geolocation setup in Radar. So at the top, you'll note that there's a drop down. You can have multiple projects, for example, a project for each of your skins or each of your apps. There are also test and live environments for development and production. And each project and each environment can have its own API keys. We also have advanced access controls, so you can easily control who sees which projects, who can modify which settings, who can modify which data, who can see which data, and so on and so forth. And for users who do have access, like admins or your developers in test environments, it's very easy to turn specific geolocation checks on and off, mark certain IP ranges as bypassed for testing, and also change which jurisdictions are allowed or blocked both at the country level and the state or province level. Lastly, I wanted to highlight our developer documentation. So Radar is the only geolocation solution in the gaming space that has open developer docs, open source SDKs, and self-serve sign-up. We'd encourage you to get your hands on the product, and we'd love to support a tech validation. There are just 3 steps to integrate. The first is installing our SDK in your app or website. The second is performing geolocation checks, either at login or at regular intervals, depending on your use case and jurisdictions. And the third is acting on those geolocation checks. So when you perform a geolocation check, we'll return a signed tamper-proof geolocation token, as well as an indication of current jurisdiction and which checks passed or failed. You can manually request geolocation tokens, or you can have the Radar SDK automatically request geolocation tokens at regular intervals, depending on your use case and jurisdiction. And again, because Radar doesn't charge per geolocation check, we price based on monthly tracked users and devices. You can check as often as you'd like, and you can also have the Radar SDK check more often than you'd like, so that we always have a cached geolocation token available to you with 0 latency, which means better player experience. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit us on the web at radar.com. We'd be happy to answer your questions or give you a personalized demo. My name's Nick Patrick, and I hope you'll join the rapidly growing list of operators and vendors who are choosing Radar for geolocation compliance.